Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome to a video about the newest trailer for Monster Hunter Wilds. Yeah, we're just gonna talk. I'm just gonna talk about it and all the details to it that I saw. So without further ado, let's just get into the trailer.
Hi.
As soon as we find a good spot, we can get things set up and ready to go. And then we can get started.
This is gonna be great!
You bet.
I hope we find them soon.
Look!
Incredible. I've never heard of a Karatnoth herd this big before.
One of them's got big spikes on its back.
Now to lead it away from the pack. We'll make for the desert.
Right. The sandstorm! Now commencing the hunt by order of the guilds.
I've selected you as a lead hunter for this expedition.
Thank you, sir.
So starting off with the ship being on the desert reminds me of Monster Hunter 3, Monster Hunter Tri, where we hunt the Genmoron on one of these ships. And yeah, there's a giant desert, you're on the ship. So hopefully we might be able to get the Genmoron back into it. We shall see. Would be very nice to get that. As I think it would just be cool to bring back one of those giant monsters and bring back a kind of a raid monster from an older game versus having the newer monsters that are somewhat raid like, but they're not exactly there. Speaking from someone who's played World and Rise, World had a few like the Cove Taroth, but they never felt like the Genmoron. The Genmoron felt like a different kind of raid monster. So hopefully we get more of that as we kind of as the game progresses and they'll release more. Hopefully we get more of that.
Hi.
As soon as we find a good spot, we can get things set up and ready to go. And then we can get started.
This is gonna be great!
You bet.
Big before.
So we got the first monster drop name anyway for the game, which is the Ceratonath, which are these kind of armadillo looking ones with the males are certain types of them, having giant spikes on the back. We did see that in the previous trailer before this, as well as further on, that the lightning strike those, and it doesn't really affect them. So it could just be a kind of growth that the males have as a protection. So when there is lightning, that it doesn't hit the herd and only hits them.
One of them's got big spikes on its back.
So now, not only, oh wow, I just realized, there is, not only is there going to be time change as Rise and World have done, it looks like there's going to be actual climate change throughout the map, and the fact that obviously there's time change as well, but it looks like there's two different climates that we're going to experience while here. Whether or not it goes back and forth and whether or not it is kind of a day-night cycle is yet to be seen. It looks like it is a day-night cycle because every time it was more of the desert, it's kind of more nighttime versus when it is, more, grassy, it's daytime. So we'll see. One cool thing, though, I like about that, let me get back to this. We are getting, this looks like gameplay. This looks like it's gameplay. It doesn't look like it's part of the cutscene. If it's part of the cutscene, that's still pretty cool. If it's gameplay, this is really cool because there is more monster on monster interaction, and it is small monster on monster interaction. And not only is it just an interaction, it is a full-on, tussle. Like, he is, like, that the Predator is full-on going for. Like, it's fully animated and stuff like that. Which I think is really cool that they've implemented that into the game and just shows the detail that they've been putting into the game as well. As well as I just noticed this, I don't know if this one right here is a younger version of this. I don't think so because it's far away from the herd, but still pretty cool, and it's obviously very similar. But yeah, same location, different time of day, and it looked more deserty. So it could be a different type of day, or it could just be kind of just a different time. But it looks more deserty. It doesn't look as, the water is lower, but it's in the same location. As far as I can tell, yeah, the trees are the same and everything's the same. It's just different, either different time or different weather, which will be interesting. And we do know that the sandstorms do play a part of it. So this could just be after a sandstorm. That we are experiencing kind of more a deserty kind of dark area versus it actually being nighttime. Then we get the look at the first, I think this is the first large monster that we're going to fight. We don't have a name for it, but it definitely looks pretty sick, pretty gnarly. Like,
now to lead it away from the pack. We'll make
get
for the
a
desert.
close-up of its face if we can. Like the face, it doesn't look like it has eyes. It looks like it's an eyeless beast. But the fangs, and it looks like there's a dominant hierarchy here too. We have this guy who has a red back, big red face, but he's also just larger in size than the other one. So there's a hierarchy here as well, which is really cool. But just the look of it looks disgusting in a good way. It looks very just animalistic. It looks very kind of just vicious. It's very, I like the look of it. We also get a look at the clutch grab, or the, I can't remember what it's called, but the world claw. The claw from World, where you can pick up things. This time it looks like you can actually pick up items from afar instead of having to pick them up and running to them, which is pretty nice. And then obviously you can shoot it still and have the environment affect the monsters, which we see kind of in the background here. Hunter shoots at the cliff and it hits the guy in the back there, knocking him over. So they're bringing the they're still keeping that environmental feel and how the environment will affect monsters and your hunting throughout the whole gameplay, which I think is pretty cool. So that toss is reminiscent of World, where the Devil Aho literally uses Dodogama and Adagaran and some other ones as rag dolls and just tosses them around, throws them around, and stuff like that. So we shall see. And it looks like it's affecting larger and smaller monsters too. So they're bringing that again to a lower scale for this game, which I think is really cool because you don't normally see these small monsters having an effect to the game, and they are kind of just there. But now they are actually like implemented in the fights. They are implemented in the game, and they have their own unique things, unique abilities. They can fight amongst themselves. They hunt amongst themselves, which is really cool to see in the game, at least from what we can tell. Also, I just realized. So that guy gets struck by lightning, and he kind of just gets stunned. I thought he was levitating because I thought I was like running and his legs were back. But no, he just straight up just gets stunned. So I wonder if that is all that, again, environmental using it. But I wonder if that has something to do with it, or if it's just that's just what they deal with. But it's pretty cool. Here we get a look at our second large monster, or at least is what I would assume is our second large monster. So like how in World, I believe it was the Jagras, and then the Pookie, I believe, or something along those lines. And then Rise, it was the Azuros, and then Kuliaku or something like that. You know, something very similar where it's a smaller monster, or they're large monsters, but they're smaller, they're easier to hunt. This looks like it's the second one. It is a frog? Frog looking kind of guy. It's a very cool aspect, but they do kind of have very simple moves, and again, it's their beginning monsters as they should. But he also just looks beefy. I think I mean I would love his armor when we can get it, but he just looks chunky and beefy. I love the arms that he has. I love the spikes. And it looks like he does have something with his saliva on his arms. And obviously he uses his tongue a lot in combat. Oh, I just noticed. So I'm just finding details. So he uses the saliva that he has on his arms and then rubs his arms in the dirt and the rock, and it looks like he gets armor on his forearms. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see that in play. And I wonder if they're going to have it where eventually, where if you hunt this guy in different locations, he'll have different powers, kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure. I wonder if he'll, like, if he can go to a volcano and he's there and he rubs his arms in the dirt or ground there, he'll have like firearms, where if he hits you, it bursts into flame. Something like that. It looks cool. Also, again, he looks just chunky here. He looks beefy. He's ready to tussle, but it's really cool how they have more environmental aspects into the fighting. And then right here, what people have, I've noticed that people have been saying, something that I find really cool. You can now have your mount pick you up from being knocked down, which is really cool and really useful. It looks, however, I think you have to whistle and then you get hit and then it picks you up. Because it looks like you can whistle for your mount to come pick you up. We'll see it later on. But it looks like with this, if you whistle for your mount and then get knocked down, you don't have to get up for your mount to come and pick you up. Your mount will come and pick you up on its own. Haven't talked much about the mount. I'll talk about it here in a second, though. Again, the little monsters are having an effect on the large monster, which we did not see much of in World or Rise. And it is just really cool to see. And it's really cool to see how it's not just a little clip like a... I'm trying to think of the... where the two big monsters are going head to head. It's obviously the small monsters, but it's also a different effect of them. Like multiple monsters are on this one monster, and it's on them. It's like a full on interaction, not just a cutscene or not just a clip. It's full on cutscene that I wonder will be different based on the monsters as well that are fighting. But there's 2 of them on there, and I'm pretty sure there's 3 that eventually hops on, which is really interesting to see them do, because they've never done something like this. I don't remember them doing something like this before. Also, I noticed that his fists, his arms are glazed. So I wonder if just over time, those rocks just turn into a mud and kind of a goop, and it kind of affects the fighting as well. But yeah, see, a third one hops on, and yeah, it's just the interaction between the small and the large monsters is really interesting. Obviously, I think if there's bigger large monsters, the small monsters aren't going to do as much, or they're probably just going to run. But like this, where it's like, oh, you're a bit bigger than us, but there's 3 of us, so we're going to fight you, is really cool to see, because we haven't seen anything like this before. Then yeah, there's that where your mount, he whistles and your mount comes and just comes underneath you and picks you up, which is nice instead of having to kind of get onto your mount like in Rise. You would call your mount and then get onto your mount. I do believe you could just call your mount and get on instantly, but this is still pretty nice and it's pretty fluid motion. And it's not going to affect you if you're in combat or not, because there's a lot of times where it's like, oh, you're in combat, so the guy isn't coming around, and it doesn't seem like he's responding right away. So this is pretty nice where it's like, oh, even if you're in combat, even if you're knocked down, it'll come and pick you up and get you going. And obviously it goes between bipedal and quadrupedal. And I think that's just varying speeds and agility. So I think if you're slower, it's kind of like with a dog in Rise and Sunbreak. When you're sprinting, you have low agility, but you're faster, obviously. But when you're kind of just walking along, you have high agility and you're slow. So with this, I think on the bipeds, you're slower, but you have greater agility. But if you're on quadrupedal, you're faster, but lower agility. Never mind, you kind of are sprinting between as he's running, but I still think, yeah, because you're sprinting around. Also nice to see those combat moves from the from being on the mount, because normally you only have the one where you jump up straight up from the mount and bring your weapon down no matter what. So it's nice to see kind of a side slash with the mount. Now, this move I do like, having the ability to have even more of a gap closer with a great sword. He is charging forward and it has a nice gap closer for those who obviously don't know the moveset, don't know the monsters as well. When they hit a monster and it staggers back or falls back, obviously your next hit isn't going to hit. With this, however, it looks like if you hit the monster, you now have the ability to at least rush forward or do something where you can rush forward to get to that monster and then do another big hit, which is nice and beneficial for those who do not know a monster and when to kind of expect it to do a rearing back move.
I've selected you as a lead hunter.
Oh, I didn't even mention this. Right here, you can have 2 weapons while you're out on a hunt. I do not. Obviously, we can't tell if it is always just going to be a ranged and a melee weapon. So you can have like a bow gun or a bow while you have any of the swords or lances or stuff like that. Or if you have a lance, since it's bigger, you're not allowed to have a bow gun or weapon. Or if you can have a great sword and then dual blades, so you can switch up the agility as you see fit based on the monster you're going against, instead of having to go back to your camp and do that, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's going to be pretty useful. I do hope that you can have just 2 different weapons. and it's not you need a ranged and a melee weapon. I hope it's two different weapons that you can use that you can take out with you, so you can switch between the dual blades or a great sword or something like that, because I think that'd be pretty cool to see. As well as it would be pretty cool to use as if you are hunting two different monsters and they have two different weaknesses. Sorry, you can then take one sword for one of them and take another sword for another. And if you you don't have to go back to your camp and switch out the weapons, you'll have them on your mount, pretty much on you, as as you're in the quest. So I think that'll be pretty cool. It's still pretty cool to see that, even if you have to use a ranged and a melee weapon on the mount. I still think that's pretty cool, and you're using it on the mount, which is also pretty useful. For those who are mainly sword users or melee users, this way you can still get use of the bowgun or the ranged weapon, and not just rely on that, or not just switch to that and have to switch to that, and then you have that all you're using that. It looks like you can switch it on the mount, use it, and then I'm assuming you probably switch back to your weapon, your sword.
I've selected you as a lead hunter for this expedition.
Thank you, sir.
Again, he just gets struck by lightning. So I'm not going to assume what the story is. I do not know the story. Obviously, you are a lead hunter and you're exploring this area, and you are trying to find a person. It looks like. I could have talked about this earlier, but I didn't really want to. But it looks like you're trying to find a certain people, or you're finding a certain group. To be honest, it looks like slavery. It looks like you're trying to find someone who is kidnapping people and using them as slaves. We all obviously do not know yet, and we'll find out more as time progresses. But it'll be interesting, to say the least, how the story flows with this. But again, just wanted to focus. Two things I want to focus on. He gets hit by lightning. Everything else is okay. Everyone else is okay, but he's stunned, or they're stunned, whatever. He's stunned. So I'm assuming that it is just a growth, and I'm assuming the males have it as a protection, as precaution, as during the night, obviously, lightning strikes more often. And so since lightning strikes more often, therefore you kind of want protection, so you're not going to get hit, or the herd isn't going to get hit. And that is their protection. You can see another one over here. So they just have multiple males with those spikes that just sleep, and then you get struck by lightning, and they're like, "Oh, what's going on? Oh, it's just lightning. Okay, go back to sleep," kind of thing. So I think that'd be pretty cool. Then I also forgot to mention what I saw.
Thank you, sir.
This thing. This thing is energized. Whatever this is, it is gaining energy from the lightning, from something. This is energized. So this is probably going to have a big part. Maybe not a big part, but this is going to have a part of the story. And it's definitely, at the very least, have a big part during the sandstorm. But it's very interesting to see the detail of how this is energized. And then obviously they have the online aspect of the game. Doesn't look like your mount changes. Looks like they all have the same mount, or same species of mount. So we'll see if you can customize your mount. You could do that in Rise and Sunbreak, where you can customize your dog. So you can customize your monster here. So it'll be interesting to see. But obviously, yes, they do have multiplayer. I see bow guns on these guys. So I see a bowgun here, I believe. He has a bowgun. I think he has a hammer, I want to say, or some sort. Obviously, this guy has a hammer. Hard to tell, obviously, just from this angle, but it looks like it's ranged melee. You have to have one melee versus one and one melee. But we'll see. Obviously, we'll see when stuff comes out. Now this is something that's really unique, because whenever you block or whenever you do that, it's just you block and you move on. With this, it looks like you're going to actually have more interaction with the combat system, and you're going to have more interaction with the monsters as you are blocking, which is going to be interesting. And it'll also seem like the monsters are going to have certain moves where you're going to have to, I'm assuming, spam a button to hold the block to do that. You know, you could, and this very well could be interesting, you could have a full-on kind of collision between your sword and a monster's like tail or something like that, and you have to kind of hold a stance and spam a button to keep that sword, you know, to keep that block in your favor. So this is pretty interesting to see. Obviously, we see this guy with a bow gun, and obviously these are different armor sets and stuff like that. So this is the hammer guy, but no, it looks like, and at the end, it looks like you kind of just pull away from it versus like doing a slot attack afterwards. So it's pretty interesting to see how you, well, it's just interesting to see a block actually blocking something and not just being kind of a tink and you just get knocked back. It's a full-on block and you are like holding the wall. You're holding the sword, you're holding your own against the monster, and it's really interesting to see. Then we have the title card, obviously, and then we have the date, or at least the year, 2025. You can wishlist it now, and you can get it on Steam, and you can get it on Xbox and PS5. So there'll be that, pretty interesting. That it's coming to PC in 2025. It's not just a PS5 exclusive release and then a year later Xbox or Steam. It's going to release on these three main streaming or gaming platforms, which is really, really nice. And then if you have Monster Hunter World, so they are kind of skipping Rise because it's something completely different, and using World and Iceborne. So this is obviously a continuation from those two, and it's set aside from Rise. This is just a continuation. This is seems to be somewhat of a story, with World, Iceborne, and now Wilds. It's a continuation. So if you have World or Iceborne, well, World and Iceborne, you'll be able to get Palico equipment for as long as you have saved data in those games on your console. So you will be able to get a feline leather and feline duffel one from World and Iceborne in Wild. So that'll be pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in this. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in this trailer that we were able to see. I think it's going to be a very cool game. I cannot wait for it, and I will definitely be playing it. We'll be getting a lot of new monsters. We have no monsters informed of coming back besides Rathalos in the original release trailer. But we shall see what monsters come back. Obviously, you have the Great Desert that is reminiscent of the Gen Moron. But we shall see what eventually does come back, and we will keep an eye on what they release. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Good times.